Hi folks, I'm Mike and I hope you're well. Welcome to Featured Artists Live. This is the second time recently I've done it at this balmy time. Well, not a balmy time if you live in the UK or Europe or Canada or places like that, but here in Perth, Western Australia, it's 10 p.m. Way past my bedtime. I've been up since 5 a.m. this morning, but I'm here for you now, ready to listen to some music from the community. I just want to point to our sponsor here, DistroKid. They make this show possible. Thank you to DistroKid. If you want to release your music, as the artists have in the show today, then follow that link. If you haven't signed up for DistroKid already, you'll get a nice discount thanks to following that link, and I'll get a small amount of money as well. Thank you very much in advance for doing that. Great to see the people in the live chat. Maybe we've got some different people today. Maybe we've got the same people. Who knows? I know we've got a few of the same people. I can see right away. Nice to see Danny Gable in here. Also, well, Nick is not normally here, so nice to see Nick here. He's in the UK. We should have a few UK people here today. Mimo Japan is up late. He's in Tokyo there. I think he's maybe an hour different to me. So well done, Mimo, for being dedicated, as you always are. And, of course, Kianra is here in the same time zone as me. I know, it's late, isn't it, Kianra? Anyway, now, let me quickly explain what this show is all about, because this is a kind of a pilot. This is a bit of an idea. Hang on a second. Something's bothering me. Something's really bothering me. My banner is covering my head. It's making me look like I could be a bald guy. So I'm just going to do a little adjustment here. Just wrong way. Sorry, it's a bit of adjustment. It's like, thank you. Now, this show is a little bit different than what we've done before. I know lots of you join us normally on Fix My Mix. This is Featured Artist Live. On Fix My Mix, myself and my guests very much focus on music which hasn't been released yet, and we advise people about what they could be doing to that mix before they release it. This is almost the opposite of that. These songs have already been released. I have handpicked them from the community because I believe that all of these songs have quite a lot of really good things going for them. And we're going to try and learn from that instead. All right. We're going to all try and listen to that and think about what kind of techniques people are using in that music that we could all try and replicate sometimes to help our music. Now, the other thing that's very different is we're not going to be focusing just on the mix. The mix could be a part of what we talk about, but we're going to be talking about the arrangement, the lyrics, parts of the music, the performance, anything we want to talk about with these productions is things that we're going to talk about. We will be playing the songs, and myself and my guest, who I'll introduce in a moment, will be reacting to them. And we may listen to some parts of the songs again as well. It's something a little bit different that we might be doing. But we are going to listen to the songs all the way through to begin with, because I think it's really important to listen to a piece of music as a whole as well. Having said all of that, and I hope you're going to enjoy it, it's a bit of a pilot. If it goes well, then we'll do it again. And I've got a good feeling about this, I have to say. I think this could be good fun. And one of the best things about this show, this particular show, this episode, is I am being joined by none other. He hasn't been on the show for a while, actually. I am being joined by Dan the Man. There he is. Hey, Dan.
I feel like I need to have my wings for this pilot. What do you think?
Hey, I just noticed we both wore collars today. I very rarely wear a collar, and we both got our collars on.
I'm hanging on to collars. We're at the end of our warm season. We're getting into fall now, so soon you'll see my sweaters and hoodies. So I figure I'll expose my arms while I can.
Well, man, it's good to have you here. We haven't crossed paths too much recently because we've both been super busy. You've been busy with some projects apart from what you do with YouTube.
Partly, yes.
And then I know that you've been quite open in your community that you're sort of focusing your YouTube channel a bit more than you have done in the past at the moment. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. It's in some ways it feels like a shift, but I've gone through the history of my channel and it's not anything new. It's just I want to sort of narrow my focus a little bit. I mean, I'm a home studio guy. I bought a home around a home studio, right? So
Yeah,
home
yeah,
studio is important.
yeah.
But I'm a guitar player, and the whole name Lonely Rocker, we all know what kind of music that I like. So I just feel like I want to niche down a little bit, or at least have the guitar more a part of the story more often. Even if it's something that maybe is not directly guitar related, because I have some really successful mix tip videos and I don't want to
Mm.
get away from doing that. But I want the guitar to be more front and center on the channel and start diving into, the creation of music. I've talked about time signatures and I've talked about, different songwriting elements and that. But I really want to feature the guitar more and more on my channel because it's, I find basically, as you know, sometimes we'll spend a long time doing a video. And if I do a video that has nothing to do with guitar, I find I don't play guitar for a week. So
All
by
right.
forcing myself to
Okay.
do guitar related content, I actually get to play more and I get to practice more. And that's
Cool.
that's something that I felt my playing sometimes gets stale. So
You've got a nice video recently I watched the other day about songs in 7/4, and I was thinking about this, and you've inspired me a little bit because the last couple of days I've been sort of composing something on the guitar in 7/4, and what I've noticed about it, really interestingly, of all of the so-called odd time signatures, I don't think they should be called odd. It's just another number, a less
mhm,
common time signatures.
mhm.
7/4 sounds really natural. Like you could write a song in 7/4 and never notice that it's an unusual time signature. I reckon
Yeah, I mean
it's got a
I
real
mean
good feel.
sometimes like the shorter ones or anything based over 8 sometimes will feel a little more jarring, but 7/4, as I said in the video, it's long enough that it feels like we're kind of doing it. We're just kind of throwing the listener off every second bar by a beat,
It just
you know.
adds a nice
And
little skip
yeah,
in there,
yeah.
and yeah, so it's good fun. And it's great fun to write with as well, and it's always good to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And sometimes, although you do it like the last couple of days when I've been trying it, it's kind of a technical exercise in the sense I'm forcing myself to. Technical exercises are really good to push yourself into new territory, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
And
4/4 is, I mean, our heart beats in 4/4, right? We
mm,
naturally
mm, mm.
write music that way. But 7/4 definitely is a decision, and it helps you to inspires you to create different rhythmical things,
Mm.
especially, I mean, obviously, but even melodically too, because as you would typically build or resolve a melody, if you're working in an odd time signature, it forces you to alter that logic a little bit,
Yeah.
and it could push you into areas that you've never been before if you've never explored. I think in odd meters, it's because I've been listening to that kind of music. Like I literally tap out something, hey, and I don't even know what it is, and I record it, and I go, oh, that's 13/8. That's crazy how that happens. But it's the kind of music I've listened to for so many years. It's natural to me. But if it's not that complicated. And it's a really good device to push yourself into new territory if that's something you desire.
I've got a musical family member. His name's Chaz. He's my nephew, and we've recorded together quite a bit. He's got a wonderful voice. He's a good songwriter. He has no technical musical background at all. He would never be able to. He might not even know the names of some of the chords he's playing and what have you, right?
Mhm.
But he naturally skips beats, right? So, and I think it's because he's a singer guitarist. He doesn't play lead, so I think he kind of gets
Right.
bored. So he just goes, "Screw it, let's just move on to the next bar." I mean, I don't think he technically thinks that, but he just does that. And I'll tell you, it's a wonderful thing. It's just a really wonderful thing. And when I play with him, I'm like, "Man, what are you doing there?" He says, "I don't know. I'm just playing." I go, "This is very cool," but
You know what? Life is not that structured. I don't know why music has to be, right? So that's why it's nice to kind of get off the grid sometimes and be a little different. So
True.
that was the whole idea behind that video. Yeah.
Doug is saying that Cakewalk doesn't like multiple time signatures inserted randomly. Not randomly, no. But you can do multiple time signatures. This is the thing with DAWs. They do have things which try and make music a bit predictable. The grid, as we all describe it, into quantizing, and things like time signatures. You always, whatever DAW you're working in, it's like when you come to insert a different time signature, you have to read the manual. It's not just there. They're not expecting people to do it all the time. But the point is that so many of these things are possible to do, though, still in your DAW. It's up to you to learn those sort of features and work with them. I think sometimes the technology gets a little blamed too much. Like,
well, if we took a poll, I bet 99.9% of the songs in the world were recorded in 4/4 at 44/1, right?
Yeah, right.
Because the DAWs defaulted that when you load them up the first time. You got to change it because you can, right?
Right, let's move on to our first song, Dan. Now, folks who are in the chat and people who have sent songs in, a little bit different. I've given our guest here, Dan, the opportunity to hear these songs before the show, because normally on my other shows, the guests don't get to hear the songs. This is not about our reaction as an immediate reaction. This is hopefully us trying to give a little bit more educated opinion on what we think has worked with these songs. So just let's allow people to know that. Now, the first song that we've got, I didn't create the captions. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did, in fact. Dan, I'll let you read that one out.
Grizzly Habit, ATFL.
ATFL. So I will quickly do a little warning for people. This has got some adult language in it. If you are sensitive to that kind of thing, then cover your ears or leave the show or whatever you want to do. But yeah, so this is Grizzly Habit. Just a little bit of background. I haven't got a lot of background on this at all. I just what I gleaned here and there. This is one of the things that this is a demonstration to me of what you can do with like no budget or gear that you've got at home, because this was sent in by, or not sort of submitted on the Facebook group, by one of our members in there. He produced it, I think, for his daughter's band. It was all done in Cakewalk. And from what I could see with the credits of the video, it seemed like there may be some other family members involved in creating the video. I'm not sure. He may be here in the chat, so he could tell us about it. What I'm getting to is this is very much a homegrown sort of product. And for me, I'm just going to quickly say, it kind of shows you what's possible with very little resources. Anyway, I think we should just go ahead and listen to the song, Dan. Let's do that, and we can talk about it later.
Early July, late nights in the kitchen, your air guitar. Listening to Don't Let Me Down and playing bars on my arm. And I was sitting on the sink and I thought that I can't think of one thing about you that I don't like, and it's killing me. You don't stop on the phone, I hear the rhythm of your breath, and I'm jealous of the girl that gets to fall asleep next to that. And you'll never know just Won't you give it in? I'm so curious what it's like to be adored that much. Wondering what I see in you to have me waiting for this long. Is it even a question? It's not an obsession, but it's close enough. I don't know what to do with all this fucking love.
Alrighty. Oh, hang on. Press the wrong button there. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, Dan, how are we going to do this? Should we do one each? We'll do one each because I've got a lot of notes on this.
Sure,
I've
I have
got
a
a
few
lot-
notes as well. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's
You,
see if we cross paths. Can I start first, Dan? Do you mind?
Sure.
You haven't got a choice. It's my show. So.
Eat my notes. Eat my notes. Hey.
So, first of all, this is right up my street. I'm kind of when I last lived in the UK, it was the late '90s. It was right in the middle of Britpop, and I was also a fan before that of kind of '70s punk, you know. And this is right up my street. I like something that's a bit rock and roll, you know. This is that, and I just want to point first of all at the most obvious thing and discuss it, right, before we get into the kind of music. And that is the actual hook, the lyrical hook, right? Or the kind of the shockingness of the effing love. So good for this type of music. It's perfect. I don't know if some people don't like swearing in songs or whatever. I think there's a long tradition in rock and roll, as we might call it, of being nonconformist and saying things we shouldn't say, and it's got that tradition in it, and I love it. Don't mind it at all. You know, it's wonderful. But I want to say about that, it's more than just a swear word, actually, and this is why it's lyrically very, very clever, in my opinion, because it's the contrast of the effing love, right? It's that harsh word with that soft word right next to each other, which bang hits you in the face, and it's very, very good. It's very, very good. The song could have been, you know, I don't know what to do with all of this love, and it still would have actually been a pretty good line. You know, I don't know what to do with all this love would have been a great. But once we get the F word in there, it's like, oh, we all woke up and went, cool. It just sounds cool the way she sings it and everything there. So just I'm a big lyrics guy. I don't often get to talk about lyrics. Finally, I can. That's very cool. If you can get something like that in your songs, I'm not saying you need to swear every time at all. What I'm saying is that something in the lyric which just really grabs the attention. Not everyone's lyrics people, I know, but something that just grabs your attention. Well done, whoever wrote the lyrics for that. I like it. And I think I'll let Dan take the next point.
Well, if I can just add to what you're saying, that's one thing I did want to touch on, because sometimes swearing is used gratuitously, right? Or just because they can. And you know, when I'm with my friends, I speak like a trucker. I got no problem with a little foul language. But in terms of using it as a tool, I've always, even in comedy, you have some comedians that they just swear to swear, but then you have those comedians that drop it at the right time.
Yeah,
and it
right,
works
exactly.
so well. And
Billy
what's really
Connolly.
interesting, you know,
Every time, but brilliant.
I'm going to age myself, but Rodney Dangerfield was the king of the one-liners, and he didn't swear that often. But when he did, he meant it, and it was well placed, you know. But in this case, everything you said, I totally agree with. And the fact that they're not hiding behind anything, they frame that word too, because the music drops. Right? They're
right,
it's
exactly,
so
right.
beautifully framed, right? So, and I think, and this can tie into the other things that I want to say about the song, is that songs that are built on very real life experiences are extremely relatable. You know, whether you're,
mm.
but now one thing I have to say, because I listened to the music, I didn't see the video. And this is, as someone, since people should know that, not only am I a musician and I produce my own music here, I have a video production background, and I actually used to own a music video production company where we would work with record companies, and we won some awards and, and all that stuff. So I'm very in tune with the music video and how important a music video is if you're going to go that route. Because when I listen to the song, the girl in the song, the character will say, was isolated. It was one girl. But to see the video, to suddenly see two girls, it just changed my whole impression of the song. Now, that's up to whoever creates the video and how close they are related to the people who wrote the song. How do we want to present ourselves? Because listening to the music, I just hear her sitting in her kitchen. The room's a bit grimy. She's really pining over this guy who is not paying any attention to her, and she's just pissed off. Yeah. But in the video, there's two of them. They're kind of getting over it. They're having a party around it. And it's amazing how, just the impression you get from the music versus the image that you have in your head. Because when you do a music video, and if you are involved, which I assume in this case with indie sound music, I assume they're very involved in the video that they produce, this is the image that they want to portray to the audience. It changes my impression. And it shows the danger of doing a bad video for a good song, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now, it went in a completely different direction from what I heard in my head, but it absolutely did not affect how much I like the song. In fact, I think I like it even more now. So good job there. But the visual is so critical because we are painting a picture in our minds, but in a music video, we're serving it up. Something to be thinking. If we are doing videos for YouTube and stuff, it's something to think about because it adds in that next element to the music, and then they become attached forever because you can't unsee that, right? So that's just something that wasn't in my notes, but that caught me by surprise. But I just love the relatable nature of the lyrics. It's something that we've all been there. Whether you're a guy or a girl, you want to be with someone who just doesn't even know you exist, and how you deal with that. And overall, I just love the vibe of the track. And and as Doug said, cool bass line too.
It had that very raw bass sound as well, which again, you see a lot of the stuff that was going on there musically was just so right for this genre, which is, it's a tricky thing because it's about making it sound like I think you would call it a garage band, but a pub band or something like that. For this style of music, it shouldn't be overproduced at all. And that bass had that really honky kind of thing going on. Really, really cool, like that. Can I just point out a couple of things musical in here? I just want to talk about something. I will say in my defense, some of these musical things I'm going to point out, I don't know the technical names for them. So if anyone wants to correct me or educate me in there. But the first thing I noticed was a sort of a call and response thing happening. It was happening right at the beginning. I'm going to try and play the first few bars. I don't usually do this, so I'm new to this, guys. Let's have a go.
Early July, late nights
Now listen to the
in
guitar.
kitchen, your air guitar.
So you hear how that's happening there's that in between. So there's like the vocal, and then this is like, I think it's like a call and response, you might call it, or something like that.
I actually had that in my notes. They do that with the guitar solos later on.
They did it as well later on, exactly.
And hard left and right, and they're like arguing with each other.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think when the band comes in a little later on, I did have it in my notes here. Yeah, look, this system here isn't working as well as I hoped it would. But a little later on, definitely, when the rest of the band comes in, that kind of stuff is happening as well. So just, for people starting out and they're getting to grips with sort of writing and arrangements, this is another little technique you could do. Because really, the rhythm guitar is just doing a straight dunk, 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 dunk. And that could have worked. Just leaving that gap. But I think it was better the way they did it, to have the vocal and just a little fill in with a little thing happening there with the guitar. Really, really reasonably common technique as well, but really cool. Yeah. Dan? Anything
overall, it's the only thing I would add, and this is not a criticism at all, it actually could work both ways, is I'm left wanting a little bit more at the end. The last hook comes in, and again, this is could be by design. Like sometimes, oh my God, it's over. I want to hear it again. That's a good
Yeah,
device
yeah.
to people to listen again. That dueling guitar at the end, as you think, that call and response. I almost want it felt like I wanted to hear the vocals come in and have all of them fighting each other at the end and give us that big chorus, but they drop us pretty quick afterwards at the end. And again, that's not a criticism. It's a technique that's employed often, and because I wanted more. The only way to get more is to go and listen to it again. So if that was the intention, I think it worked well. I mean, I was hoping for more chorus at the end, and I didn't get it. So,
well, what I'm going to do is encourage people to have a listen by following the link in the description. There's some Spotify links in there. I had a few more points, but I think we've kind of run out of time on this one. I just want to mention one more thing, because I've often said on the shows that if you're programming drums, right, to listen to drummers and what they do. Because often what people are going to do is write 4 bars of drums in their DAW and copy and paste them through the whole song. And although that may be sometimes what drummers do, they very often don't. So, folks, if you do go and listen to this, and I encourage you to do that, listen around about 1 minute 50 in, you'll hear it. I think it's in a build up to the chorus. They're using actually ride cymbals, and it all sounds very washy, right? It sounds really, really washy. And then when they go into the kind of main chorus, it goes to the hi-hat and everything becomes really tight. Yeah. Just that one change. If you didn't have anything else happening with the other instruments, that one change on the drums will make an enormous difference to the feel of a song. Actually, it's a common, Ed's here in the chat, and he'll tell you it's a very common thing that drummers do. They may sometimes do it in the reverse way. Yeah. When you go into the chorus, go over to a ride and get off the hi-hat. But it's just important to understand the difference between what's happening there, especially for me as a non-drummer, that feeling of tightness, everything, you get that with a hi-hat, and when all the cymbals are going, it sounds great. It sounds kind of more messy, and yeah. So anyway, that was my impression, that they did that very, very well. It was real drums, I think, pretty much. I'm pretty convinced it was real drums on this song. Our next song, our second song, is, I couldn't tell if it was real drums or not, really, to be honest with you. We'll get to that after this short break. If you want to release your music via DistroKid, there's just a couple of things you need. First of all, the music itself. Here's mine in my DAW Cakewalk, and I'm exporting it to an uncompressed WAV file for best results. Now, the other thing you'll need is some artwork. I just grabbed an old photo which I'd taken on the beach, chucked on some text here, and that's what I call art. Then I went over to DistroKid, and I just have to fill in this extra easy form. It's a no-brainer form. You get helped all the way through with little hints and things. You can't really do anything wrong. You just go ahead and confirm a few things about your music, and then you just have to actually upload the artwork and the song itself, and DistroKid takes care of the rest. It's going to send it out to all of the best platforms so that people can hear and buy your music. Okay, so full disclosure, the next artist is a friend of both mine and Dan's. We know him very well. He's previously been a guest on the show many, 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 many times. This is the first time I've actually played music from one of my regular guests on the show. I thought I would do it tonight for me. And so this is a song from the one and only Ed Thorne. He is here in the chat. Nice to see you, Ed. There he is. And this is a song called Angel. Okay. I must admit, although I was aware that Ed had released this song, I hadn't actually listened to it. That's indefensible, really. But it's been a crazy few months, and I think I maybe I'd seen him mixing it on one of his shows, but so I've really only listened to it for the first time yesterday, all the way through. I've listened to it 2 or 3 times. Got a few notes. Have you got a few notes, Dan? I'll let you go first.
I got a couple.
You got
Stand
a couple
by
of
there,
notes.
Ed.
Okay. So, folks, if you don't know who Ed Thorne is, he is a drummer. He's a music producer. He's a writer. He's a live sound engineer guy, and he's a YouTuber. Just look for Ed Thorne on YouTube here, and you'll find Ed Thorne Music Productions. He does a great focus on audio interfaces, especially, and has some really good videos on that. So check out his channel. But today we're focusing on his music. So let's have a listen to this song. It's called Angel. Here we go.
I saw an angel by my side with tears from heaven as she cried. I saw reflection in those eyes, like a ghost in the night while we were dancing. Will you take me by surprise? Will you take my breath away? Will you take me by the hand and lead me out into the night? In this world, in this world, I saw a demon by your side, immerse you in the anguish of your pride. I saw true colors in those eyes, catch the shadows of heaven. My heart was breaking. Will you take me by surprise? Will you take my breath away? Will you take me by the hand and lead me out into the night? In this world, in this world, I see your fire in heaven. I see you walking with the angels. I know I'll find you in heaven, 'cause I can feel you burning. I can feel you Will you take me by surprise? Will you take my breath away? Will you take me by the hand and lead me out into the night? In this world, in this world, I see your fire in heaven. I see you walking with the angels. I know I'll find you in heaven, 'cause I can feel you burning. I can feel you
All right, I found myself making more notes there. I made a whole bunch of notes. I've got so many notes on this, Dan. We're gonna have to be quick.
All right.
There's a lot to say. There's a lot. I'm gonna let you go first though, because I waffled on a lot last time.
Well, the one thing I'm going to start right off the top, and that everyone in this chat should pay close attention, is that Ed really mastered Easy Drummer on this one.
yeah. This is Easy Drummer at its best, isn't it? Hey, this is Easy
Wow, okay.
Drummer on steroids.
So, well, anyways, I mean, look, I mean, everyone who knows me, who's watched this show or similar shows, I love musicians. Music is a part of the word musician to me, right? Right? Oh, Skittles.
Sorry, just in case anyone was wondering.
Are they sponsoring this video?
Carry on. Sorry.
And it's to me, it's sad that we even have to have these discussions, because I can boil all of my notes down to one word, and that's dynamics.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Ed is a great drummer, and it's a foundation of the song. I mean, clearly he's a songwriter, he's singing. I mean, there's just so many positive things to take from this song. But if we really want to look at elements of a song that we can apply to our own music, something that's well demonstrated in this song. It's simply one word, and it's dynamics. And I don't mean what a compressor does,
No.
because the human element of music to me is so important to great songs. Not that we can't write good music. And I don't ever want to sound critical, but here's an example where, I mean, as I said, being a songwriter, he's a drummer. So just the intensities, that, the way that things change, and the moments just feel so genuine, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not volume, it's expressiveness, right? And that keeps building. Another technique that I really love in this song is how things sort of, when they come around again, like a verse, like the first verse was done very, stripped down and mellow. And then the second time around, there was more instrumentation.
Absolutely.
And then there was like a little sequencer on top. There's like a buildup of elements. And then right through to the end, where there's a sudden drop right before the big ending, it's just like, oh, take a breath, and then boom, hit you in the face again. That all comes down to one word, and that's dynamics. And that's something that's sorely lacking in a lot of, homebrew music these days, because people are just, we talk about the grid. We just set up our grid. We drop our parts, verse, chorus, verse, maybe a bridge. But having a solo section, a little key on the keys there, and there's just so many dynamics in this song. I mean, I'm going to leave a lot of
something. You touched on something there, which is something that, whenever I've been writing music personally, and I hope it comes across in my own music, is although we could write, the tab down or the chords to the song, and it would look somewhat repetitive, I always think, right, I've already done that. How can I change the arrangement or evolve it? It's evolution for me all the way through, and that's what Ed's done there, really, really well. I just
really,
say,
yeah, go on. Sorry.
Well, I want to say first up, this song is it's a sort of a silly point in a way, but this song is really a credit to Ed's production skills. I know he produces these things himself, and some people perhaps don't deserve to have YouTube channels where they're talking about production, maybe me. But he certainly give himself credibility with something like this. I'll say that first off, because it's sonically and everything spot on, really, really good. Like, no doubt, it's a very, very professional production. I want to talk about dynamics as well, and I think in a world where we so often focus about how do we make things louder, how do we make things punchier, I liked right at the beginning of the song when everything dropped out after the intro. I just want, I'm going to play that again. Just listen to this. It happens, we're about 14 seconds in, I guess, when it all drops down. Let's have a listen.
By my side, with tears from heaven.
Now, I've got to say, normally I'm a massive fan of, especially with a band, of everything dropping out and then just the drums, bass, and vocal. It can be so effective to do it. But Ed's even dropped the bass out of this, right? It's wonderful. Don't always think in terms of more, folks. Think about dynamics as less and more. And sometimes the less actually also has this, look, music is about emotion, right? We're not, it's not about technicalities. It's not, technically that was a good thing to do. It's like, did it like affect us, And I think that's so effective, what's been done there. Whoever made that decision, it was probably Ed. Fantastic decision. It's just, also gives the song somewhere to go as well. Because if it had continued as, it was a reasonably hard-hitting intro, right? There's a reasonable amount of energy there. And the song would have had nowhere to go from there. Yeah. So really, really cool. I like that very much. Your point next, Dan, I'll let you.
Well, I think continuing this theme of dynamics is that often when people are writing songs, they're focused on the part itself or the section of the song itself and how well the part is working. But I think something that not a lot of songwriters think about is how does this part serve the next part?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like we talked at the beginning, 7/4, and when I was exploring different time signatures, is that a songwriting technique, sometimes creating an odd meter on a time signature to serve up a chorus that is suddenly in 4/4, right? There's a purpose. Not only does it sound good, but it serves a function really to serve up the next section of the song, to make the next part of the song sound bigger. Again, on that theme of dynamics, it's not just the part itself, it's how each part rolls into the next one. And sometimes in creating those parts, think about why it's there. It's not because it's there for itself. It may be there to serve up the next section of the song.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's almost a lot of
100%.
lost art in songwriting, because people don't always think that way, right? But it's always interesting to hear songs that have crafted something that in and itself sounds great, but has a bigger purpose where it serves up, sort of handing on the baton to the next.
I think going back to the
part of the
first
song.
song, you remember I was making that point about the ride cymbals and the hi-hat? That's exactly what I was thinking, because there was a section where the ride is going all swishy, and it led into this tightness, and it's the contrast of the two sections that worked there. It wasn't that the part in itself was good, it was the part in comparison to the next part had that contrast happening.
Mhm.
But we sort of have to make these points rather quickly. So the next thing I just want to say, maybe no one noticed this, but I think the unsung hero of this song, and Ed is of course wonderful. I've got a couple of things to say about Ed, but the unsung hero of this song for me is the bass player. Yeah, right. Because there was some big sections of this song where the bass was doing what it should do, like a pretty straight 4/4, dun 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 kind of thing. And then, by God, I've actually put notes on here, so if people want to go away and listen to this, I'd hope to play this part again, but I've just realised that my player within our system here is not enabling me to go to sections I want to. So I'm just going to say out loud, if you listen to this song, listen around about 2 minutes 30, right? The bass player is just then goes nuts. So he's kept it kind of straight, but there's slides going. He's really,
100%.
like all of the energy is coming from that bass, to be honest with you, in my opinion. You know, if nothing else about the arrangement had changed, the bass was just making it go crazy. Really, really good.
If I could add to that point, I mean, I think, again, you know, in a world, and I'm guilty of this too. I mean, I have my lonely rocker concept where I play all my own stuff. I'm not I play a bit of drums, but I'm not nearly good enough for the type of music that I'm playing. So I program my drums here, but whenever possible, I always try to replace it with a real drummer. Unfortunately, I don't always get that opportunity. But looking at a real art, you know, band, you know, I think it's often said that a band is only as good as their drummer, right? And then it builds up from there. I mean, if you have incredible bass player, incredible guitar player, incredible vocalist, well, you got a super group, right? But there's a lot of really good bands that have amazing drummers, and then the guitar player gets by, the vocalist is good enough. But if the drummer was just getting by and you had a great vocalist, it wouldn't work. And then now mix in a great bass part. I mean, that rhythm section, like, to me, it's the ultimate foundation for a great song. That's what's, you know, if you got a really good song, it's a good song. You want to push it up over the top. Well, everything we've talked about today, but, you know, solid drumming, great rhythm section first and foremost, and then all those great elements, if they exist, will just sound even bigger and more dynamic, right?
Yep.
And that's the formula, I think, for an overall great band. Look at it as a band, even if in this case it's not marketed as such, but it
Cool.
feels like it to me.
Now, if anyone's taking notes and is going to listen to this song, I'm just going to quickly say, because I'm a little bit aware of time, because I've got another live show to do later. But quickly, just around about 1:30, there was quite a bit of a mixed up rhythm going on there. It wasn't very straight on the snare and stuff. And I think this leads into your point, Dan. Again, this was another example of where this change in rhythm was, first of all, it just kept the ears a little bit interested. And then it went back into a more straight rhythm afterwards, which it was that contrast again, which worked. Also, I just added in here, just for Ed's sake, I love the strings towards the end. But I really want to finish this song by talking about the vocals, okay? And I want to preface this by saying that, having known Ed, I know he's not very confident about his vocals. I think, I don't know this, I think at some point, some friend or whatever has said to Ed, vocals are a bit dodgy, mate, and it's stuck in his head, and it's like he's gone around going, oh, my vocals aren't very good. I just think Ed needs to just forget this idea. First of all, I really like the vocals. And I like the fact that Ed sings in his own accent. It sounds like Ed. We've talked, you know, in a culture of music where a lot of people adopt an American accent when they sing, no matter what part of the world they're from. I especially love to hear a British accent in a song. So I'm sort of proud of Ed for running with that. But I just think his vocals are really good, and the layering of the harmonies in this was tip top, like really, really good. And it can be a bit of a fallback, and I don't mind saying that. If you can, folks, layer up those harmonies, because everyone loves a good harmony. To be honest with you, right? Dan, what do you say?
Well, to hammer home what you just said, and I know Ed's here in the chat. If you think about any of the great bands in history, many of them, the vocalist was very unique. And I'll avoid mentioning the band I always mention, but that vocalist, people love him or they hate him, and his career was littered with criticism.
This is a good thing.
But this is it. There's a band, actually a Canadian band called Billy Talent. I don't know if they made it across the ocean, but they're you should definitely look them up. I really didn't pay attention to them for a long time until recently, but they're a really good band, and the singer has such a signature voice. It's not like, oh, he could do jingles, he could do whatever. No, he can only do Billy Talent. He couldn't do anything else, really. But it works so well because the voice is very signature. And, Ed has a very specific way of speaking. He does it in his videos, unlike other people. And his singing comes across the same way. That's his voice. And I think Ed does need to just accept that's what it is. And it works within the context of his music. And that's what it should be designed to do. It shouldn't sound like anybody else. It definitely sounds like him. And developing your own style is a hard thing to do for a lot of people because they're trying to mimic other singers. But in this case, he's being himself. And I think that's what adds to the genuineness of what's, really a big production. It sounds like a big production, but it still feels real.
I mean, it leads into a point that I'd like to make about don't be afraid of a good section of listeners hating you, right? I think there's nothing worse than mediocre in music. It's mediocre is the worst thing. I'd rather the music that people were producing was somewhat divisive in that there's going to be I'll use Bob Dylan as an example. There are some people, they're just never going to like Bob Dylan. They hate his style of singing, right? But people who love him so much, right? So I would rather hear Ed singing with his voice, which is quite distinctive to me, and have a whole bunch of people who say, oh, I don't like the voice very much because they don't like that style or whatever. I'd much rather that than have any kind of mediocre karaoke voice that we could hear any day of the week. Bland. But I actually think Ed's got a good voice, and he's obviously in this song taken a lot of care to produce it well. And as I say, all that layering harmonies and everything, it's all work. It's all got to be done. It's not just sing along. The phrasing is there, and I know I sing as well, and I sing with Susie, and, phrasing is really, really important. You get this splattering of backing vocals that weren't phrased in quite the same way as the lead vocal, and it can get pretty messy and not so good pretty quickly. So, there's a lot of effort goes into that. I think he's done a great job of the vocals on here. Really, really good. Enjoyed it very much. So, not that Ed really needs any encouragement. And I don't know why I've been so complimentary. He's so nasty to me most of the time. But no. Look, obviously we're quite biased, Ed. But I really genuinely like. I love all your music. Every piece of music I've ever heard by Ed has just been really, really good. So, good stuff. I think we're going to go to a short break before we move on to our third song. What should I go for here? Oh, yeah, that one. Submit your music to the DistroKid Spotlight feature. It gets entered into this competition where it gets played alongside other songs, and people will vote for which of the two they see on the screen is their favourite. Now, the better you do in this process, the more likely you are to appear in one of DistroKid's playlists on Spotify, and that means your music's got a much better chance of being heard. So you simply go ahead and select one of your songs, and then you've just got to select a 29-second clip, the best part of the song. It would be the best way to go with this, and you've got this nice sort of interactive feature here to do that. You simply then select the Connect with Spotify button, and you're away. Okay, now I did quickly mention earlier that I am doing another live show. It's going to be kicking off in about an hour and 10 minutes from now, in actual fact, over on my new sister channel, which is called Studio One Revealed. And I've got Ricky T. Brown, another Studio One user, on the show with me, and we're going to be reacting. I haven't got the new copy of Studio One. It doesn't get released to anyone before it goes live. So we're going to be watching their live broadcast, me and Ricky, and well, there's been a little bit of a leak, so we do know some of the new features, but we don't know all of them. We don't know the full content. So me and Ricky are going to be responding to that over on my sister channel, Studio One Revealed. Look that up. I don't think I'll put a link to it in the description, but yeah, so that's been an hour and 10 minutes time or so. And I just want to. I've done the Studio One videos on Creative Source before, and so I need to do a little bit of reassurance. The Cakewalk users, don't worry, I'm not abandoning Cakewalk. Okay, I've used both Cakewalk and Studio One for many years now. My Cakewalk videos aren't going anywhere. Okay, so calm down. It's okay. It's okay. It's all good. Now, before we talk about our third song, I just feel, and I know Dan hates it when I explain too much about the song because he thinks we should be purists, and he's right. We should react to the song. But sometimes I think it's worth explaining to people because they may not be in a little bit of context. And the only bit of context I'm going to give, this song is not a parody song, but it has a relationship with another song, right? There was a song called Stacy's Mom, a few years back. Trying to think who it was by. Can't remember who it was by. It doesn't matter. But it was like, Stacy's mom has got it going on. And it was about, I assume, a teenage boy who fancied Stacy's mum. And it's very positive about Stacy's mum. This song is, the reason I've said that is because this song is from Kevin Burgess, a member of the community. It's called Stacy's Dad. And without going into the lyrics, you'll have to listen to the lyrics, but it's almost like an opposite theme to Stacy's. I think it's worth explaining that a little bit, just so people, in case they are not familiar with Stacy's mum as a song, they may not get what this song's all about if they don't know. Let's listen to the song and give our feedback.
Respect and is always rude. You should hear him slurp his food. Always chewing with his mouth wide open. Don't get me started on his burping. Always sniffing and picking that nose. Bites his nails, both fingers and toes. Does he always have to crack those knuckles? Fitting in is where he struggles. She should have left him years ago. Why she stayed, we will never know. No one's in love with Stacy's dad, not even Stacy's mom. There's nothing good to say about Stacy's dad. His mom at some point will drive you mad. This is incredibly dull and his jokes are so bad. There's nothing going on with Stacy's dad. Always wheeze over the toilet seat and has flatulence that's hard to beat. A worse Stacy's dad, not even Stacy's mom. There's nothing good to say about Stacy's dad. His monotone voice will drive you mad. He's incredibly dull and his jokes are so bad. There's nothing going on with Stacy's dad. Stacy's dad, his monotone voice will drive you mad. He's incredibly dull and his jokes are so bad. There's nothing going on with Stacy's dad. Stacy's dad. Stacy's dad.
Sometimes there's not enough things in this life that make us smile. I kept finding myself smiling here. Dan, I'll let you go first on this one.
All right. Well, something that, I mean, might be obvious, obviously, to everyone, but using comedy in music is a skill, because we all try to be funny, but we're not all very funny, right? So I'm thinking of that, or the era of bands. You think of bands like Weezer, Blink-182, Presidents of the United States of America, tongue-in-cheek flavor to that, and those bands did it really, really, really. So this, with that more Brit pop punk, if you'd call that, I don't know, the genre, that sort of attitude, it's clever. You know, good comedy, it has to be clever, right? And simply the idea of doing if you want to call it a rebuttal or a sister song of a popular song, is certainly, there's a technical talking, right? First and foremost. It wasn't done like, people have tried so blatantly horrible. Like, it's like, it's, you know, just because they're trying to feed off of this song. Doesn't feel that way. It's actually, it comes across as extremely clever, and that's a whole other.
I think that it could exist by itself as a song, even without the context that I gave it beforehand as well.
So the whole garage sound of the band. So there's again, you'll hear me say a lot, that genuineness. I always look for that in music, no matter the style, whether I like the style or not. Is it genuine? Because if it's genuine, it's going to resonate with an audience of people who love that kind of music, that style of music. And I definitely feel that here, you know, with the comical nature, you know, riffing off of an existing song, but doing it in an original way. And then, like I said, the element of comedy that's well executed in this song is certainly a good vehicle for music that will call for it, of course.
I mean, I think that has got that garage band again sound. This one even more so, and I actually think that it's very necessary that it did have that. If this was overproduced, if everything was too tight, just wouldn't be right. I don't know. It wouldn't be a good feel for this song. I'm glad you mentioned, you know, that the comedy aspect of it. I think that as soon as you do go, right, I'm going to write some lyrics which are comedic, they better be good. You know, you better deliver on that promise, you know. And I just think that Kevin did here. You know, we just listened to it. I mean, there's a lot of fun going. It's not sophisticated, but there's a lot of fun going there. I will say, for me, just, you know, I always, as a person who loves lyrics, there's got to be one lyric in there which is just like, oh yeah, that's the one. And for me, it was no one's in love with Stacy's dad, not even Stacy's mum. I just, it's, you know how a lyric will stand out. Yes, nice, you know.
Well, think about like something like the Offspring, right? When they came out with that song and Keep 'Em Separate, like, it was so bizarre and common. But I mean, that song is now, remember that song because of that one funny little lyric, and just to punctuate what you just.
We also had another example in this. I'm not going to play it, but for those who are going back to listen again, around about 42 seconds in, again, we had this sense of a dropout before a build-up, so there was contrast a little bit, because there was this nice chorus in there, and you need somewhere to go. You know, you can't just have everything gets louder and louder and louder. You need to This is dynamics, isn't it, Dan? And this is what's so really, really important. I also, I just sort of mentioned in my notes that, again, this loose feel to it was quite good. The drums had a loose feel about them, right? They were nowhere near a grid, and I think it really, really worked well. But whilst we want to sometimes produce this idea of like what I would call a pub band or a garage band, don't I don't think fall into the trap of thinking, oh yeah, we'll just record this like we don't care. I believe these things are somewhat contrived. The contrived messiness, right? I'll give you an example. Some of what was going on with the rhythm guitar work was actually layered. There was 2 or 3 guitars happening, and they were playing different roles. And in your traditional band, there'll be one rhythm guitarist, then maybe a lead guitarist, but so you don't have to just completely mimic what the band would be doing in the garage. You can use your studio to create some interesting dynamics in the songs. But overall, I think that if you go down the road of taking a don't care approach, then you'll get a don't care result, and it won't be good. Then it needs to sound like relaxed, but I'm waffling on. Just want to mention finally, towards the end, there was a whoa, 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 whoa. Never underestimate the power of a whoa in a song. Some of the best lyrics ever written. Well, whoa, and especially in this kind of music, I don't mind it at all. So yeah, Dan, anything else to add to?
Well, just to put a bow, I think, on what you said, I don't have to be long about this, is where, Ed's song, I sort of boiled it down to the word dynamics. And this song, I think the term of craft, because all the other things you talked about, the garage band nature of the song, it was done by design. It wasn't done because of any lack of skill or effort.
Yeah, right.
And that comes down to craft, being genuine to something, this style of music, a little bit of tongue in cheek. There's a lot of craft involved in being able to execute that. It's not like, someone said, well, I don't play guitar very well, I could write a song like that. We'll go ahead and try, because there's a lot of artistry, there's craft in there. And then it doesn't matter the genre of music. There are all types of genres, and then there's less who can do that well. Right. And this was definitely, I hear the artistry or the craft in the creation of this song, and that's extremely important when really evaluating or being able to connect with the song, because there's just a lot of good happening in there. So.
One of the comments we've got here is from Midnight Blue Movies. Nice to see you here. The lead guitar has intonation issues. Some notes in tune, some slightly out. It must have been a Gibson. Definitely you could hear that. And again, there's a point. One of those things, there's a point where you can get away with this, right? And it actually can add to the feel of the music, There's a point where it can go too far, and it can be it can be really disturbing and annoying. But yeah, I actually kind of felt that in this, again, they got away with it. I noticed some of the hi-hats got a bit messy here and there on the drumming. Again, it was just like, yeah, well, that's fine. It's okay, So, yeah. What a great show. I really enjoyed this show, Dan. Isn't it just fun? I mean, I'm so... it makes me feel bad, because I don't feel like my own music is half as good as some of the music I hear sometimes on a show. But I'm really pleased to hear it. I'm really inspired by what people can achieve in their studios at home, and what we get to hear from our communities. Really, really amazing. I think I'm going to do this show again next week. To be honest,
this was, when you presented it to me, my first, I didn't process the rule. Well, there's no rules, but sort of the concept. And then when I started listening to the song, I had to go back and listen to your notes of what you were expecting from the show. And at first I was like, oh my God, it's like, okay, we got full productions here. We got to, because I was so used to picking things apart. But then when I went back and he said, what do we enjoy about this? So, what are things that we need to highlight? I said, right away, I smiled. I said, that's such a refreshing conversation, because, being constructively critical can sound negative, even though we're trying to offer constructive points, but focusing on things that are working, giving people some takeaway, that they can go home and say, hey, that's,
it's something like I say about my reviews on the channel. Um, I basically only review things that I probably have guessed beforehand that they're going to be at least of a certain standard or quality from companies that I know produce
Hmm.
good quality. And I've got a rule on my channel that if I receive either a piece of software or some hardware, which I think is below that level, I simply won't review it and I send it back or what have you. And anyone who approaches me about sending me something for review on the channel, I always tell them this: if I don't like your product, I will not review it. I'm not just going to agree to review a
Hmm.
product. But part of the reason I do that is because I don't think that my community is really going to gain by me continuously telling them, "Oh, this is rubbish. Oh, this is no good." Because at the end of the day, you need to know what you are going to use, what you are, well, which microphone is good for me to use, or which piece of software or which plugin is good to use. Which is. So I would prefer to give people guidelines as to good directions I think they should go in. And this is a continuation of that, really. It's not just about being nice. It's not, I think we've shown even on Fix My Mix and some of the other shows that, we're prepared to say negative things about the community's music when we think it's necessary. But this is more about us all inspiring ourselves. I'm going to learn things through this or remind myself of things, musical techniques, production techniques. We can steal these ideas, steal them, put them in your own music, be inspired by them. That's what it's all about. And it's about, I'm waffling on a bit, Dan, but I don't often make purely musical posts. And I was relaxing a couple of nights ago with Susie, and we decided to chuck on some Karen Carpenter. We were talking about singers, and we both loved just the tone of Karen Carpenter's voice. Yeah. I mean, sometimes the music can be cheesy. The production was cheesy or stuff, but some people are blessed with a tone. They are born with a tone, right? And so for Karen Carpenter, particularly her lower registers. So I put a post on my Facebook group about, hey, what music do you go? What voice do you go looking for? And what I loved about that post, I got so many responses with people talking about, it's Freddie Mercury or it's this singer or it's that singer. Some singers I'd never heard of. And I Googled them and looked them up and I learned some things. But it reminded me about why we're all here. Because at some point in our lives, well, probably when we were kids, music just grabbed us, right? And we went, wow, I love this music thing. And it's because of that person, that person. For
Hmm.
you, right? It was a guitarist probably that you just went, I know your dad had a big influence on you with music, but there must
For
have been
sure.
an artist at some point, Dan, tell me about it, who you went, wow, I want to do that. Yeah.
Well, the band that I talk about all the time. I mean,
Rush.
Rush was a huge influence on me,
Hmm.
and I have memories of being in my bedroom with the tennis racket. Rush's Moving Pictures. There's a song, an instrumental called YYZ, and I used to, just sit there with the tennis racket, and I was so compelled that I wanted to do this. I wanted to learn how to do this, and it was like I had taken some classical guitar lessons, but I wasn't inspired to play because the music I was learning in those classes did nothing for me. you
Yeah.
know as soon as I got into rock and roll and I was like, heard Rush and AC/DC and all these great rock bands, I felt compelled to want to emulate this. And then I got my first guitar. I didn't even have an amplifier, and I would be in the bathroom and I'd rest it on the counter so I could resonate it and record it onto a tape machine. I was recording literally my first weeks when I had my first electric guitar. So it was just absolutely, it just pushes you in that direction.
So that's what it's about. It's about recapturing again that sense in us of, oh, that's cool. I want to do that. I want to try that out. That's cool. So what we're going to be doing on this show is listening to music from our community and going, that bit's cool. That bit's cool. This is cool. People don't have to agree with us, but at least we can try and get some inspiration going.
The world needs some
Uh,
positivity right now, so it's good to feed that.
That's what we're going to do. Now, folks, don't forget, I will be back in an hour on my other channel with Ricky T. Brown. There'll be some other positivity of a different kind there. Just going to go away and play a game of chess on my shirt while I'm away. Thanks, Mimo, for that. But Dan, it's been lovely to spend some time with you, man. We haven't had too much time to chat recently, so yeah, really, really great, and enjoyed it very much. I hope you'll be back on the show extremely
Anytime,
soon.
always a pleasure.
Don't forget to check out the Lonely Rocker YouTube channel, folks. There should be a link in the description for that down below. Thank you so much for being here in the live chat, folks. we'll see you probably back at the more usual scheduled time next week. But yeah, you all take care, and we'll see